Hello everyone, welcome back to Non-synchronous online course. Thanks for sharing your thoughts about the first module. This module will cover 5 pillars of biosecurity. Let's get started. What are you going to learn in this module? You are going to learn the essential elements of the physical security, personnel management, material control and accountability, transport security, and information security. These 5 elements, physical security, personnel management, material control and accountability, transport security, and information security are also called as 5 pillars of the biosecurity. These 5 pillars of the biosecurity are essential for the mitigation of biosecurity risks. Each organization's biosecurity program rests upon these 5 pillars. In a biological laboratory, you may be working as a lab manager or maybe as a student or postdoctoral fellow or visiting scholar. You are doing some research. Some of you may be working as a faculty and in teaching students and guiding them in the laboratory. Or maybe as a laboratory supporting staff or technician, you have some responsibility in the laboratory. Doesn't matter which role you play in the biological laboratory and biological supply chain, you need to understand the importance of biosecurity. Biosecurity is all about the protection, control, and accountability for biological agents and toxins within the laboratories in order to prevent their loss, theft, misuse, diversion of unauthorized access, or intentional unauthorized release. To safeguard biological materials, equipment, and biosecurity sensitive knowledge, we need to strengthen the culture of responsibility. For reducing the biosecurity risks in academic and industrial settings, we are dependent on 5 pillars of biosecurity. I'm going to highlight how physical security, material control and accountability, personnel management, information security, transport security play an important role in mitigating the biosecurity risks. These 5 pillars of biosecurity are important not only for the organization that handles the biological agents and toxins, but also for the safety of the surrounding communities and environmental health. Each organization in biological and biotechnology research should make sure that all 5 pillars of the biosecurity are strong enough. Physical security is considered as the first pillar of biosecurity. This physical security provides the assurance of safety from physical intrusion. Biotech companies and academic institutions should ensure that the control measures for the physical security are in place as well as maintained. In the laboratories, we handle cultures, specimens, samples, and potentially contaminated materials or biological waste. Physical security is important for the protection of microbial cultures, collected samples, specimens, and potentially contaminated materials or biological waste. Personnel management is the second pillar of biosecurity. It ensures that only staff that are given access to biological security sensitive materials should have that access. There are 5 main objectives of personnel management program. So the objectives are to understand that human factors can significantly impact the success of biological risk management, to reduce the risk of theft, to reduce the risk of fraud, to reduce the risk of scientific misconduct, and to support the administrative access control requirements. Bear in mind, to achieve all these objectives of biosecurity, awareness among the biological researchers, all supporting staff, and other stakeholders is essential. In other words, all biological researchers, their supporting staff, and stakeholders should be on the same page for the better results. The third pillar of biosecurity is the material control and accountability. Material control and accountability is essential to ensure the complete and timely knowledge of ground realities. For instance, what exists in the laboratory, where it is, and who is responsible for it. The second objective of the material control and accountability is to create an environment that discourages theft and misuse by establishing oversight. The third objective of the material control and accountability is to promote the culture of responsibility, which is important from a biosecurity perspective. In the laboratories, we handle numerous biological agents, chemical reagents, and equipment. From this context, many issues may pop up. For instance, what materials are subject to material control and accountability measures, what records needs to be kept for biosecurity sensitive materials, what operating procedures are associated with the materials. For instance, how are they identified? How is inventory maintained? Where can they be stored or used? What does accountability means? What timeline requirements are necessary for those records? And what are the documentation requirements for compliance? What information should we keep track of? You can always think of biological agents, their form, quantity, scope, and other details. Let's take example of the biological agents from biosecurity perspective. Questions are, shall we focus on only viable microorganisms, or we should also consider isolated DNA and DNA inside the non-viable biological agents? In case of quantity, any amount of a viable organism can be significant because we can cultivate the microbes to make required amounts. Therefore, we should be careful. Accountability ensures that biological materials, equipment, and knowledge are protected. For biosecurity purpose, all materials should have an associated accountable person who is ultimately responsible. As a part of accountability, that person should be able to answer all questions about the associated material. Finger pointing doesn't make any sense when it comes to accountability. The person in charge should understand the consequences of biosecurity breach. We also need to make sure that all kinds of biological materials and equipment are duly considered from biosecurity perspective. The high risk biological agents needs special considerations because the movement of high risk biological material outside of the restricted area may be required. For example, for research purpose, samples transfer may be necessary to generate the data as a part of fundamental research project. In case of public health and diagnostic laboratories, transfer of high-risk biological material samples may be necessary for diagnosis and analysis. The transfer of high-risk biological agents may be needed across international borders within a country or within a facility. Transport security is the fourth pillar of biosecurity. Transport security is vital to make sure that same rigorous processes that protect biological material in the laboratory follow those materials when they are transported outside laboratory areas. The main aim of transport security is to reduce the risk of illegal or unauthorized acquisition of high-risk biological agents. Transport security entirely relies on chain of custody principles and end-user agreements. For diagnostic and research purpose, high-risk biological agents are routinely shipped worldwide. It is a matter of biosecurity concern at local, national, and international level. However, the internal transport security should not be taken lightly. As a part of international regulations, external transport security is bound by national and international laws. Information security is considered as the fifth pillar of biosecurity. Biosecurity sensitive information can be misused. The information security is the assurance that the sensitive and valuable information stored in biological laboratories is protected from theft or diversion. A simple failure in information security may result in very severe consequences if the sensitive information falls in wrong hands. Therefore, documents control is essential to reduce risks in a facility. When you are implementing program in your organization, any policies implemented for the biosecurity should be based on a robust biosecurity risk assessment. If the risk assessment is not robust, control measures will not be enough or appropriate. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, cybersecurity is an emerging field at the intersections of cybersecurity and biosecurity. In biological laboratories, internet security is very important. A breach in system can result in cyber intrusions, information theft, and malicious destruction. We can't ignore cyber biosecurity. Your experts in the organization should be able to address issues with the firewalls, user authentication, virus protection, layered network access, desktop security, remote and wireless access control, encryption, and authentication. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, to summarize this module, I want to highlight 4 points. Point number 1 is biosecurity best practices are essential to prevent loss, theft, misuse, and proliferation of biological materials, equipment, and knowledge. Summary point number 2 is physical security, personnel management, material control and accountability, transport security, and information security are equally important. Point number 3 is biosecurity awareness among laboratorians, and stakeholders is essential to prevent proliferation of biological materials, equipment, and knowledge. The last one, but not least one, point number 4 is the full support of the senior management of the organization is essential for the security of biological materials, equipment, and knowledge. Okay, while we discuss securing biological materials, equipment, and knowledge, the next module will be dedicated to the biosecurity risks mitigation at international level. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.